Okay, here we go. So Chaya, Noir and Nil are back together, but they've also kind of got caught up with some bandits because they want Ananda the elephant. However, these bandits are working for the king's half-brother, okay, Sina, who there's been rumours for ages that he is going to come back and try and overthrow the king. So Chaya is trying to get on board with them because getting on board with them might help them get back to the villages safely and potentially defeat the king. And if they defeat the king, then the king's not going to be able to kill them and harm them. But she's trying to convince the leader bandit that this is all a good idea. And that's where we left it. So we left it with, I think we'd be the biggest asset to you. We can directly help Sina in his victory. Gamage stared at Chaya. Confident child, aren't you? I don't like this kind of grand talk. I think you should clear out now. We can help, insisted Chaya. You do not know what we did, right? We may be children, but you do know anyone else. But do you know anyone else who could have steal the Queen's jewel from a palace as heavily guarded as the royal palace? Someone who walked right into the Queen's quarters. Gamage grinned and shook his head, but she could tell he was impressed. And got one of the king's prisoners out of jail, said Nil. Actually, all of them if we're counting, said Chaya. Gamage inclined his head, amused, as if conceding a point. And stole the king's elephant, said Noir, catching on. All right, but why would you want to help us? We want to save our people in Narisia. Gamage snorted. Your people hate you. You're not going to get any heroes welcome there. We don't care about that, said Chaya. Our people have suffered too long at the king's hand. Think about it. Narisia is right on the doorstep to the king's city, and this is a perfect time to strike. I don't make these decisions, girls, said Gamage. We take orders from Prince Sina. Then take us to meet Sina, and we can discuss this with him ourselves. Gamage threw back his head and laughed. He was still shaking with mirth when he spoke. Like I said, confident child, aren't you? You can join us if you like. Your skills might be useful to us. But if you think Prince Sina will be interested in any of you or your grand ideas, you can forget it right now. Noir put down her plate and leaned in towards Gamage. Without the support of the surrounding villages like Narisi, Sina can never succeed. Imagine what he could do if all the men and women joined him as he marched in. And support for the king right now is the lowest it has ever been. If Sina misses this opportunity, another one might not come his way for a very long time. Chaya sat back casually. And you could be the one who spotted this chance. I'm sure Sina would be very grateful for your leadership. Gamage stared at the three of them, as if trying to figure out what to make of them. Finally, he relented. I'll pass the message on to the one who gives the orders. So they might have worked their way in. Chapter 32. The children spent the next day with the bandits, not hearing anything back about their proposal. Do you think it'll work? Chaya looked through the slatted window, at the men ambling to and fro outside. Do you think Gamage even passed on the message? It's been a whole day. They were in their hut, a single room with a few threadbare mats rolled up on one side of the unswept floor and a shuttered window next to the door. Gamage doesn't have access to Sina, said Nil. It has to go through others to reach him, wherever he is. Sina must know about us if he knew about Ananda. Noir was sitting on the piles of the mats, her chins on her knees and hugging her legs. And what we said about the timing makes complete sense. He'd be a fool not to even consider it. We're running out of time though, said Chaya. What would the king do with father? How long can we wait for Sina to respond? Noir picked up a stray thread on the mat beside her. Aren't you too afraid? This is so much bigger than I thought it would be. This is an actual war with the king. It was going to happen anyway, said Chaya, with a king like ours and with Sina back to stake his claim. But our people need it right now. But what if the villages are hostile, said Noir. They've suffered so much because of us. Why would they be jumping at a war with the king? We'll just have to convince them, said Nil. There's no turning back now. Gamage summoned them later that evening. The men were gathered on the platform around a blazing fire, over which fish hung to roast. Come, have a bit of dinner with us, said Gamage when he saw them. Sit down, he gestured at some men sitting nearby as if he was sweeping the rubbish away with a broom, and they moved off to the side. Have a good rest? Yes, thank you, said Nil, sitting down. The air was warm and smoky. Pots of toddy were being carried in, and the men were getting slightly raucous. In the background, Ananda's shape loomed through the darkness and smoke, still tethered under the tree. So tell me about home, said Gamage, as a man came up with a wooden tray of whole roasted fish. You all live in Norissia? Nil and I do. Chaya took off one of the profited trays. Noir lives in the king's city itself. And you have knowledge of the palace? Of course, Chaya bit into the fish. They were soft and spicy, unlike the ones they burnt by the river. Not to blow our own conch shell. I guess not to blow our own trumpet. But we did get in there twice. Once to the Queen's quarters and once to the underground prison complex. We work as a team. We each have talents. I see, Gamage nodded and turned to Nil. And you must be the mastermind. Tell me, boy, how did you do it? Chaya bristled. I didn't. It wasn't. Chaya cleared it. Nil cleared his throat. It just happened. Gamage shook her head. You don't want to part with your secrets, I see, but it's okay. I have some news for you. Around them, the men talked and laughed, munched on their food, their faces tinged orange with the firelight. A man came round at the end with large pots of buffalo curd that everyone dug into with glee. What news? Chaya put down her tin plate, hardly daring to hope. You've got your wish. Prince Sina wants to see you. Chapter 33. The next day they set out early, walking briskly through the jungle with Gamage. He seemed to know his way very well, and by midday they'd come to the edge of the forest, where a cart was waiting. Chaya hoisted herself up after the others into the car. This is nice. I thought we were going to have to walk the whole way. Prince Sina is living with a friend and family, said Gamage, sitting opposite them. Someone close to his mother's side, who's always been loyal to them. They didn't talk much after that, with Gamage sitting beside them. It was refreshing being out in the open country after being in the jungle for so long. The blue sky endless above them, the cart trundled down the coastal road, coconut trees flashing past as they drew on towards Sina. They drove through a pair of gates down a curving drive and stopped at a large, many-gabled house with a latticed porch and wide veranda. So that's where they, like the Tudor houses, the latticed windows where they're all crisscross. And a wide veranda is like a big porch that kind of goes around the whole house. Or a bit like a balcony. A man was standing outside, immaculate in starched clothes and slicked hair and a moustache. I'm Malanga, he said to them. Please go and sit down. I'll be with you in a moment. Chaya and Noir followed Nil inside, while Malanga stayed back and had a few words with Gamage. All the doors into the house from the veranda were thrown wide open against the walls, and the place was bright and airy, even grander than Noir's, with very high ceilings and plants flowing here and there through railings and winding around pots. This is nice, said Chaya, sitting on a polished railing seat of the veranda and leaning out. Somehow I thought Sina would be locked away somewhere hidden. They watched the carts roll away down the gravel drive as Gamage left. Malanga nodded at them as he walked in and showed them to the carved settee. It felt strange to be sitting on proper seats and having cups of coriander tea served to them on silver trays. I hope you had a comfortable ride, said Malanga. You can have some rest before lunch. Can we have a bath too, said Noir. Please? Of course. When do we meet Sina? Said Chaya. We'd like to speak to him as soon as possible. I understand, said Malanga. You will meet him this evening, after you've washed and eaten. I should let you know. He might not be what you're expecting. What do you mean? Said Nil. Chai exchanged a glance with Nil. Gamage hadn't seen Sina either. He said very few people had. What was Malanga saying? She didn't care if he had 2 heads, as long as he wasn't like the king. But Malanga shook his head mysteriously and even looked amused. You'll find out. And we're going to leave it there. So they're going to meet the prince. We have no idea what he's like. Something's obviously strange about him. I don't know, or not to be expected. But they're hoping to get him on the side to kind of overthrow and strike the king now. So we'll see what happens.